Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how many of you out there watching would rate your listening skills at a 10? Let's see a show of hands. Wow, that's a lot of people. Of course, I can't see the answer raised. Most people think that they're great listeners. But what I'm here to talk to you about today and my co-host is whether or not you're actually listening or you're actually overanalyzing what the other person is saying. Sometimes we're overanalyzing our own thoughts, and therefore we're not even present with ourselves. We're going to discuss this further. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and we're here on A Woman's Prerogative. Let's welcome my co-star and the star of the show. Her name is Mariska, and she's joining us from Australia. Welcome to the program. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. And yes, you got that one right.
For those of you who don't know, Mariska and I have been doing this show together for probably 5 years, and she was in New Zealand. And I'm always making the mistake of thinking that she's still in New Zealand, but she's in Australia. But Mariska, it's really important out there in the world to be listening. And people think, they truly do, that they're great listeners. And what I found is when I'm teaching a workshop or I'm leading a keynote, I will ask that question. Raise your hand if you think you're an excellent listener. A scale of 1 to 10, you're an 8 or higher. Almost every hand in the room goes up except for the people who fell asleep. And what's interesting is that I find during the presentation that they're actually not listening. And we do role plays and one-on-ones, and people are not listening. And part of the reason that we have a hard time listening is because our mind doesn't stop and we can't focus. And we start analyzing and overanalyzing. So you have an engineering background. You have a different work experience than I do, but we're both coaches. You are a higher level coach than I am, and you've helped so many different people. What do you make of this? The fact that people think that they're excellent listeners when they're truly not even paying attention?
I think we go into zombie mode a little bit. In the sense that we think we are conscious and we are operating and we live in the world, right? We haven't killed ourselves yet. We lived up to whatever age you are now. But were you really awake? And all that time, and I can honestly say there's times that I know for a fact I have checked out even though my body was still going. And that might have happened during conversations.
It might be happening right now. You might not even be here right now, and neither am I. We're both checked out.
Yeah, who knows? And it happens a lot. I remember having a conversation with one of my clients, and this specific client really struggled with listening, not because they didn't want to listen, but because there was a lot of underlying beliefs running in the background that prevented them from actually listening. There were so many internal things happening, being afraid that they didn't know what to say, being afraid that there would be an awkward pause or silence, being afraid of what the other person would think, none of which they can necessarily control or do anything about while they are in this overthinking space, right? But when we stop and actually be present, just for a little while, we might notice what the other person is saying and get into the conversation and be interested in whatever the thing is for a tad. I'm not saying that it's going to become your favorite subject. And then not overthink all the internal processes, because, oh man, can we focus on that way too much.
Way too much. And, I've been teaching listening courses for probably 5 years now, and nothing has changed when it comes to skill sets that are needed to listen. And one of the things that I just want to point out, and you and I have discussed this many times, is setting a boundary and asking permission. So if I just walk up to you on the street, or I see you somewhere in the public domain, and I just start, oh, blah, 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 you're probably not paying attention because you already were thinking about something else. It's almost like right now, you and I are in different countries. It's a Thursday here, it's a Friday there. You're in winter, we're in summer. It's a completely different world. But at the core, we still have the capability of building a relationship, which we are. We're good friends, and we've never met in person because we actually listen to each other. And so what I suggest is that we ask permission to share a story. Mariska, would this be a good time for me to share something with you? It's going to take about 10 minutes.
I love it. What do you want to share?
So now I asked for the permission. I framed it up. I need 10 minutes of your time. And I better stick to the 10 minutes, because if I go over the 10 minutes, then the next time that I approach you, you probably be thinking, she's going to talk for 15, 20, 30 minutes. But what ends up happening is, and it's so common on the phone, someone makes a phone call, you answer the phone, and the person just blithers. They just start blah, 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 blah. They didn't say, would this be a good time for us to have a conversation? And one of the feedbacks that I've been given about this is, well, why would you pick up the phone if it wasn't a good time? So part of the reason why we pick up the phone is because we see the person's name. It's in the phone. I see Mariska calling. I want to let her know that I'm answering the call, but this is not a good time because I'm actually hosting a TV show right now. So how could I have a conversation with Mariska when I am doing the television show? And so I'd love you to speak on this. This happens all the time. You come into a room, a person, and you are talking to someone who is in front of you at a desk in the kitchen doing something, and you start talking to the back of their head. You're standing there talking to the back of a head, and you expect that the person is going to understand or be totally present. What are your thoughts about whether or not this is a great move to make when you're trying to have a strong bond and connection with someone?
I could just see how it goes. I know how it goes wrong. Never mind seeing how it goes wrong. And it wasn't even the back of the person's head. They were busy. I could see they were busy. And then I started talking, expecting a response back and not getting it. Luckily, I also remembered some of our conversations going, yeah, okay, I'm not going to get upset about it because it was actually my fault, right? I didn't do the thing that was supposed to happen by first getting their attention, finding out whether it's a good time now to get their attention. I don't know what they're busy with on their phone these days. Our phone is like a mini PC. You can be busy with anything. I don't know. So checking in. Hey, can we have a quick conversation? Can I quickly ask you a question? Because it was literally a quick question. I just wanted to know what they wanted to drink. And yet, I still need their attention to get a proper response back.
Well, think about what you just said, and I'm glad that you shared that example. At that time, you were wanting to know what the person wanted to drink. So that was a priority to you. But to the person, that might not have been a priority. And so we end up making situations that are really about us, and then we put it on the other person. Then it's kind of like, all I want to find out is what you want to drink. And the person's like, I'm adding up a column of 20 numbers to determine what we have in the bank. I mean, whatever it might be. But yet we feel like whatever it is that we're asking, we need the answer now. And what I've talked about many times is I've watched human beings, adult, grown people, start standing up and down. I want an answer now. I need to know now. No, you don't need to know now, because the other person is not mentally available. They're doing something else. But we want what we want when we want it. And without asking for that permission, which, by the way, this is another example. You see someone on the phone or they're on the speaker, whatever the case might be, and you start talking to them and they're like, I'm on the phone. Like and meanwhile, if it's on the speaker, the other person can hear you talking, but you still keep talking. It's unbelievable. And I hate to bring this one up. I see it at the gym all the time. I literally want to unsee it. People going into the stall to go to the bathroom and they're on their phone. May I ask why? Please, this is not even a hygiene issue. It's about setting boundaries. Does the other person need to hear you in the bathroom? Do the people who are in the bathroom need to hear you talking to the person who might not know that you have them on speaker in the bathroom? Totally socially irresponsible, because you now are betraying that other person's confidence that you have them on speaker in a public facility. But people don't even think about it because they want to talk when they want to talk. So Mariska, when you are working with your clients and you find that they have problems in their life, in relationships, when do you start exploring that person, your client's ability to be present and focus?
Well, typically what I have found with most clients, with most of us in general, is if you have a specific type of behavior that you typically exhibit, whether you want to or not, it will show up during our sessions. Yes, because guess what? You don't switch it off. You will come in with the best of intent, and at some point it will still happen. So what I have found really helpful is preempting it as this is something that if I notice it, I'm going to bring it up just so that you can notice it too, right? One of the things about anything we want to change, doesn't matter whether you want to change your weight or whether you want to change your bank account or anything else in between that. Anything we want to change, we need to create awareness around it first. If we are not aware of it, if we don't know about it, we cannot change it. It is not possible for us to change it because we don't even know about it or that it's an option to change it. So that's the first thing that would typically happen. So if I find that the client might be interrupting, typically that doesn't happen so often within a coaching session, but they might talk for ages and not give any other opportunity for anybody to bring any ideas into that space. Now, if that's the agreement that we have, by all means, go nuts and talk. But if that's not the agreement we have, then at some point we might want to shut up so that the other person can also get a word in edgewise, or at least ask us a question to get us out of our spinning heads, right? If I think about coaching conversations. So yes, it shows up, and there's a variety of different ways. Of course, coaching conversations are very special because we have a container with boundaries and agreed on behavior sets and ways we communicate with each other, which I am so fascinated by the fact that in life, just in general, with our normal relationships, we don't do that. We expect things to just happen and everybody else to, I don't know, sniff out our expectations. And we're not even clear about our own expectations for ourselves. It's a very weird setup. What's your findings on that, Dr. Jacalyn?
One thing I want to just mention here on USA Global TV and Radio, I'm not the only producer. We've got 5 other producers, and I instruct our producers that before the show begins, the host and the guest or guests and the producer meet 10 minutes before the show starts so that we can go over a few things, check the audio and check the visual. But one of the things we'll share is with the guest, during this program, you will be on spotlight like this. And please keep your answers to 2 minutes or less. And if you see the other person popped up, that means we've already covered that topic. It is a TV show. We need to move on. So what I found is when I'm producing the show, I'm not on the show, but I'm producing, I'm doing the best that I can. The person's talking, blah, 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 blah. They're 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So I bring them back and the host is ready to say something, but we teach elevated listening here so that no one's interrupting. And so then I change the frame so that it's like this. And sometimes I go back and forth between this and this, like to try to give them the message, like, can you please stop talking? And it doesn't work because they heard what we said. They agreed, okay, I'll keep my answers to 2 minutes or less. But that's how they are in their life, I'm sure. And this isn't about judgment. It's about being aware of your surroundings. And it's about knowing your audience. And Mariska, what I think this really applies to, and I'd love your thoughts on this, when you're in a relationship with someone, whatever the relationship is, it's give and take. If you and I were doing this show right now, and I've been on shows with people, by the way, and I think to myself, why am I even here? Because they're doing the entire show, which is fine, but I could be doing something else. And so in a relationship, when it's always one person talking or one person's always listening, someone feels neglected. Someone feels unheard. And when that happens, that's when things start to break apart. What are your thoughts on this?
It is, as you mentioned, it is a flow of energy. I think of it as dancing, right? We want to flow with the other person. And sometimes I might be leading and sometimes the other person would. So it's that flow. We don't just go in one direction and I'll get off the screen that way or out of that relationship that way if I have a tendency to do that. And interestingly enough, one of the things that I have found with working with people in general, and one of the patterns that I see is that whatever the thing is that we want most, yes, this is so counterintuitive. The thing we want most is then the thing that we use and we push the other person. So I might want a relationship. So I get to do one of two things. Either I push the other person away because I'm afraid that they will do it. So I do it first. Or I get so clingy that they really don't want to be close to me. And then they push me away, right? Either one of the options, not helpful at all. You are not getting what you want. And this includes conversations. Because if the other person can't talk, well, how would we even know what the hell's happening?
So here's a question I have for you, because I think this is really vitally important. I know sometimes with myself, I live alone. I'm alone a lot. You and I might have a conversation after the show and I'm like, blah, 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 because I have so much like built up stories that I want to tell. And at some point I'll say, okay, that's enough. Let's go to you. But people don't always have that awareness. So what would you suggest is a good time to say, okay, now it's time to flow and let's switch and let the other person say something? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? How do we know when we pass the baton? It's almost like you're running a relay race and you're like, okay, I'm running the first time. Boom, there's the relay. It's your turn now.
Well, I think it has a bit of it depends on the context. It depends on the relationship that you have. And it depends on the agreement that you have set. What's the expectations and being explicit about it? I mean, I don't know about you, Dr. Jacalyn. My nose is not developed to smell other people's expectations yet.
I thought you were going to say something else.
My system doesn't work that way, right? I can't smell what other people expect of me. I can guess, and it may or may not be right. The only way for me to know is to actually ask. Say, hey, I would love to share this with you, but it's going to take me a wee while because maybe I still need to work through some of it, or maybe I would like to just bring all of this into our space. Is now a good time to do that? And I know with you, Dr. Jacalyn, you always do that before we start our conversations. And I love hearing your stories and what you get up to, because I learn from them too, right? So I'm very happy to listen to all the things that you share with me. And I may or may not have anything to share at that point in time, because maybe I shared it with you last time around, or maybe life was just a little bit messy and stuff wasn't all that interesting, or what I would perceive as that interesting. So I think it depends on quite a few different factors. What I think is very present for me in your question is do I know myself enough to go, I interrupt, or I speak over people, or I speak too long, or I do these things a lot of the time, right? And noticing it. And what I also found really good is to have a buddy. So if you have somebody like I have, Dr. Jacalyn, who you can say, hey, if I do this thing, will you just let me know? And they do, especially when we have loads of interactions with them, whether it's at work or at home or wherever. Get yourself a buddy, especially if you're working on some awareness building, because we don't always see it.
It's so true. We don't always see it. And something else I think is really relevant. Let's say you have something that is really important, that it could be something happy, something sad, maybe it's about your relationship, and your significant other is a big fan of soccer, right? We've got the world soccer matches going on, and you decide at the very moment that the game is on that you are going to go and ask your significant other, it seems like you're not really interested in me. I don't know. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Because if the person is already excited and committed to doing something, and now you come in with whatever your story is, maybe it's good news, maybe it's bad news, maybe it's something about the relationship. Think about the timing. If the person is engaged and watching this soccer match, they cannot be available to listen to what you have to say. And that's where we start to lose it as humans, because our emotions start taking over and we no longer have any logic. All we have is this need that I've got to tell someone something. And I've seen this and experienced it. I've done it myself before I started working on my listening skills. Something happens and you pick up the phone. And the person doesn't answer. You call the next person and the next person and the next person. And I've seen where people get so desperate, they just put it on social media. This just happened to me. What do you think? Asking unknown people, strangers, about your personal information because we can't control ourselves. And then here's another one, and I want you to weigh in on this. Someone, and I was having a conversation with the person, and the person was really anxious to talk about something. And I said, this actually is not the best time for me because I'm in the middle of this project, but I'd be happy to talk to you tomorrow. Oh, I don't care if you're not available right now. I'm going to tell you anyway. I just told you that I'm not available. I'm literally not available because I'm doing something else. So I said to the person, okay, let me just explain something. I'm not going to be listening. So I'm sure that when you finish saying whatever it is that you're saying, you're not going to have any closure. You're not going to feel any better. You're probably going to feel worse. And then the person said, well, why don't you just stop doing what you're doing? And that's how we think a lot of the time, because what I have to say is so much more important than what you're doing. And that is a judgment. So when we start saying that what we're doing is more important than someone else, we're saying I'm more important than you. I have more value than you. Well, I personally don't want to be engaging with people who think that they're better than I am. They're more important than I am. We're all equal as far as I'm concerned. And it's basically about the business of respect, respecting yourself and the other person. If you truly are not available to listen to what someone says, it is on you to step up and say, I really want to be here for you. At this moment, I am already committed to something else. Now, the minute you say what it is you're committed to, it's a rating system. Oh, let's see, she's working on whatever. And what I'm talking about is here, but it's never going to be good enough. So if you start making excuses, if you tell the truth, it's a rating system. So I don't use any excuses. Unfortunately, Mariska, as much as I want to be here for you right now, I'm unable to give you my undivided attention. However, I am available in about an hour. How would that be?
That would work. Or it might not. Who knows? It might not work. And then I go, that's fine. Thank you for letting me know. And I'll move on to someone else or somewhere else so I can process it.
Now, what about this? I love that, but I want you to think about this. What if you didn't have to reach out to anyone? What if you started processing it yourself? What if instead of picking up the phone for external validation or to get someone to say, I agree with that, I don't agree with it, yes, no, yes, because it's always going to be 50-50. What if you just worked on it yourself? You sat with it, this is what happened, and you start to process it. How would that feel?
Well, for me, that would feel brilliant. It's most probably the first thing I would do. I know that's not the response for most other people. I get it. What came up for me as you were mentioning this is from time to time, we do feel that we need to be witnessed. So whatever is happening, you've worked through it yourself and you feel that you need to be witnessed. If that is the case, I would love to have your undivided attention because I want to be witnessed, right? And I need to be clear about that for myself. So if I have figured it out for myself and I know this is what I need, I know exactly what it is I need, and you tell me, Dr. Jacalyn, that you don't have time for it, that's fine. Because then I know that what I need, I can't necessarily get the witnessing from you. Okay, wonderful. I will either wait if that is what I need, or if I need the witnessing, which typically, do we really need it right away? I don't think so. But if I really feel that I have to have it right this second, then I can always go somewhere else. And hey, whoever said that we cannot be our own witness? So a self-recording might also work. Why not?
I love that. I love that we can be our own witness, because many times we're looking for someone to validate what we're feeling. And I'll give an example because this is one people can relate to. Let's say you go to the doctor and you have some tests done and you get the results. Maybe the results are positive, maybe the results are negative, maybe it's what you wanted to hear, maybe you had no idea what you were going to hear. And so you immediately want to tell someone. Why do you want to tell them? If it's bad news, maybe you're afraid. Maybe you're absolutely terrified and afraid and you don't know what to do with this information. So you're looking for someone to say, you know what, it's going to be all right. But what people typically do is you share whatever it is. Oh, my uncle Steve, he went through that. Oh, cousin Brenda, she had, and then you're like, but wait, what about me? Because people don't know what to say. So it's an awkward situation. So they start coming up with stories of how it happened to them or someone else. So what I'm suggesting is you sit with the information. Maybe you don't go on Google, especially if it's a health thing, you start looking things up, because by the time you're done, you have every possible thing that you could ever have. But maybe you ask questions of the medical staff. Maybe you find out what the next steps are, and then you decide, how do you feel about that? Before you go and start asking other people, oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't take that medication. I wouldn't get that test, because that's what people do. We give our opinions when no one asked for it. But if we set ourselves up that way, then that's all we can expect, because we're putting our situation into someone else's hands. Now, Mariska, one of the things that we can do is we can say, Mariska, I'm going to share something with you because I just want to get it off my chest. It's nothing about you, but I really would like it if you would just listen and not give your opinion. Would that be possible?
Well, with me, yes.
Of course it would, right? Because you're evolved and you've been working on. Most people, it's not possible. And people will probably say, I can't do that. Like, don't even tell me then. And then you say, okay, I will. And they're like, no, well, aren't you going to tell me? Then it goes back and forth.
Yeah,
it's like a game show, like tug of war. It's crazy.
They get curious because you pique their interest, right? It's like, oh, you have a hidden gift and you're not going to give it to me?
Right.
No, it's not a gift and it's not yours.
And by the way, remember this, that when you give your information to the other person, you're setting yourself up to be gossiped about, because that's another thing when it comes to elevated listening. And as you know, one of our elevated listening team members here is that people take information and gossip. I have said this before, but the gym that I go to, there's a little area when you first walk in and people are sitting there. And I walk by every day. It's usually the same 4 people. And all they're doing is talking about people. It's the same person, it's different people, and that gets so old. So if you're giving information to someone, you have to be prepared that they're going to go share that information with someone else. So I come back to the same thing again, which is keep your emotions in check, think logically, and look for the solution. What is the solution to whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish? It's not in someone else, because we're all working on ourselves. So how could I possibly know how to solve your issue when I can't even solve my own?
That is so true. That is so true. As you were talking, Dr. Jacalyn, another thing that came up for me is regulation. So if with emotions, right, we are evolving as the human species, and a lot of us haven't really learned how to regulate ourselves properly as yet in the whole emotional range that we can potentially express. Now, when I'm saying regulation, I don't mean that you just need to be a calm Zen person all the time, because that's not regulation. Regulation is being able to move, again, the dancing, right? To move between the different emotional states and what's required for each one. And I think part of what happens, and because we are not internally clear about it, we didn't sit with it long enough to figure out what is happening for us, we didn't build awareness about it, is we might need some co-regulation. And we haven't realized it yet. So per your example of getting some very, very intense medical news, right? Emotionally, it is going to be heavy, guaranteed, right? I don't care what type of news it is for your health. If you get bad health news, you will have an emotional response that you might not enjoy. And that co-regulation might be required, and the people around there may or may not be equipped for it. And I think that is, if we can, for ourselves, at least just realize that and go, okay, I'm having this response. I don't really need to think through the thing. I don't need the solution per se. I need co-regulation because my system isn't regulated properly. And then going, all right, so Dr. Jacalyn, I want to tell you a story. I don't really need you to listen to me. It's fine. You can continue with whatever it is, right? I just wanted to check, what's your emotional state at the moment? Are you well regulated? Because then I can tell the story and I can vibe off your regulation. And I'll be okay with that. But then at least I'm aware of, what it is that I'm looking for. I don't need you to listen to the story because it has nothing to do with the story. It has to do with my own regulation and being with somebody to regulate with me. And honestly, if you don't have another human being, and that's most probably why I love pets. Pets are wonderful to co-regulate with. They help us with that. And if you don't have that, nature, best co-regulating system ever. Don't have people around you that you need that co-regulation with, go hug a tree. Yes, it is medical advice. Go hug a tree for emotional regulation. They work. They will take whatever you give them and they will give back guidance and peace in spades.
That's a brilliant point. And to dovetail off of that, when someone is very stressed out or they're having a tough day and you're in their presence and you have something that you want to share, probably not a good time to share it because they're already uptight, stressed out. Think about having a deadline that you have to get something done. Maybe your job is on the line and your partner wants to talk to you about whatever it is. And in the coaching that I've done, I've coached couples where the one person's at home during the day with the kids and taking care of the house and the other person's out of the house working. And so when the person comes home, the person who's been at home is like, well, you've been gone all day and I've been sitting here in this house with these kids, taking care of this and that, right? You know, the least you can do is listen to what I have to say. I made this dinner and this and that. I mean, the person's like, oh my gosh, I drove 50 miles back and forth to work. I was in meetings all day, hearing lectures. I had no time to myself. And all of a sudden, you're in an environment that's highly toxic and explosive because one person has expectations. Well, now's my time. Now that you're back in this house because you've been enjoying yourself all day. Meanwhile, they're working their you know what off. But it's kind of like unfulfilled needs. So each party is responsible for regulating themselves. And there has to be, I remember when I was married back in the Ice Age, that my spouse would come and we were both working and I would make the dinner and I'd be like, oh, how was your day? What's going on? And he said to me at some point, I've got to have half an hour. I need half an hour to switch off from the work mode until I'm in this house mode. And that made a lot of sense. Of course, the marriage failed and we got divorced, but that's another story. It made sense because the person needs time to adjust. We have to switch off one part of our brain. And men are very good at doing this, by the way, because men, from the research that I've seen, they really compartmentalize themselves. Whereas women, our wires are all crossed and we can handle a lot of things at the same time. But I want each and every one of us to think about what is the mindset of the person to whom you're speaking. It's called knowing your audience. And if it's not a great time because they are preoccupied, they're going through a lot, then deal with it another way. And my suggestion, it's always about finding the solution. Start with yourself. Say to yourself, you know what? I'm feeling very upset right now. I have a lot of anxiety. I'm sad. Whatever it is. Identify what it is. You did a great Talking Heads episode on all those emotions. I remember you had that chart. Maybe you can talk to that. And so you identify, I'm feeling something. So I'm not 100% right now. So this might not be for me the best time to make a major life decision. So put it to the side. Give yourself a time out where you're not going to be focused on it. Mariska, can you talk about that when you did your Talking Heads episode about emotions and how many of them there are? Not specifically the number, but.
Well, one, there's loads. And one of the big things to go from what you've been saying about naming the emotion, the more granular we can get with our emotions, the better for us. Right? And the better we are at vocalizing exactly what the experience is that we are having. And then it becomes a lot easier to see, okay, now that I know this, what is it that I need to do that would help me? And what other state do I actually want to move towards? Because the state that you are in might not be the one that you want to be in, or that's appropriate as per what you said, for that specific situation. The person just came home. They want time to relax, right? So it's not the time to dump my biggest secrets and all my life dramas on their lap right then. They need some time to process their own things. And for me to understand not only the am I happy, sad, angry, that's very basic. When you experience something, so say for instance, you get bored, right? So this is something that happened not so long ago over a weekend. My husband asked me what we're going to eat. And it wasn't because he was hungry. It was because he was bored. And he just wanted to do something. I'm like, well, is it because you are hungry or because you are bored? It's like, yeah, okay, no, maybe it's because of my boredom, not so much my hunger. So I said, okay, great. So let's unpack the boredom a little bit, right? And we are bored for a variety of reasons. We might not have things that's interesting in our environment at that stage, or we might not feel challenged, or there's a variety of reasons where this boredom can come from. And if we are able to be more nuanced about it, we can then go, okay, I need some challenge. Actually, I want to do this thing. Or I need some novelty. I'm bored and apathetic, or I am bored and frustrated. It's different experiences, and it will result in me doing different things. So being more nuanced on exactly the emotion that I'm feeling would be very helpful. And I think, as far as I remember, Dr. Jacalyn, in that Talking Heads, I shared like a wheel with all the different emotions in it. So if you're not very sure about your emotional vocabulary and you sort of go, does this count as an emotion or not? I don't know. One, go and look in our archive for that Talking Heads episode and have a bit of a look on the wheel and see, okay, so where is it that I am, right? And which two emotions might potentially describe the thing that I am feeling. The more granular we can get, the better. The easier it is for us to get to a solution and to understand what the next step might be. And it might be that I need some quiet time myself, right? And actually what I wanted to do with my husband when he just came into the door was dump all the things on him because I feel overwhelmed and frustrated. Like, okay, great. Now I know this. How can I make space that gives him the space that he needs and me the space that I need so I can work through what I need to work through?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I want to share with our audience is if you're in a relationship, any relationship that you have, and there's either not a lot of authentic, organic conversation, or you're in a relationship where there's a lot of fighting. So it could be the silent treatment, it could be fighting, or anywhere in between. But you know in your heart, if you had to rate your happiness on a scale of 1 to 10, and you're coming in around a 5 or a 6, and you're just hoping that something's going to change. Like my mother used to say, if only I had a magic wand. There's no magic wand out there. It's first of all about being aware of what is your role in the relationship that is contributing to this, because it's always one person is codependent on the other. Both people are codependent on each other. And I've shared this before, but one of the workshops that I ran about setting boundaries and asking permission course, a husband and wife came in, and as the course evolved, it was a 4-hour course, it became very apparent that the woman was becoming more and more outspoken. And by the end of the 4 hours, she announced to her husband and in front of all of us that she was leaving him. And that it took this course for her to realize what her role was and what his role was, but that she's been unhappy with him for all this time. And she was a very big personality, and he was more kind of shrinking in the shadows. And it was very painful to watch, by the way. But at the same time, it was kind of an idea moment where she realized, okay, I've been overbearing in a lot of ways, which is a judgmental word, but that's what she said. And he wasn't standing up to her. So she was getting her way all of the time, and she became bored and she lost respect for him. So in every situation, if it's not a give and take, if it's not a back and forth, probably somebody has the upper hand. And that other person might feel invisible. And that is where you start to look at your life and say to yourself, I've been in this relationship for all these years and I feel like I don't matter. And one last scenario that I want to bring up, and I've had clients that have shared this, that one person makes the money and the other person does the other roles. And so the person making the money will say, without me, you'd be nothing. Because if you didn't have my money, where would you be? And then the spouse says, but wait, I thought it's our money. And then the person says, I'm the one earning it. And the other person's like, well, I'm raising our children. Well, there's no comparable. There's nothing that can compare to what I have to do to raise this money. And so then it's cut and dried that this is not going to work. Because it's a hierarchy, it's control, it's power. And so this is what I want people to be aware of. What is your role in your relationship? Are you the one who thinks that you have the upper hand? Are you being disrespectful to your partner because you're not listening? And even if you're a parent, do what I say. If I were you, I would do this. At your age, I didn't do that. And all of a sudden, all you're doing is creating distance between you and the other person. And when you take your ego out of it and you put on your listening ears just to give the person a gift of listening without doing anything else, it can be life-changing.
Yeah, it is life-changing. I mean, if we look at as you know, I'm an engineer and I like science. So if you look at the quantum physics space, the observer-observed phenomena, right? Whatever it is that we are expecting as the observer, the observed, so the other person, will show us. And we can only have that in relationship. Nothing happens. It's that old saying about, does a tree make a sound if nobody's there to hear the sound? Right? It can only be in relationship. If the one and the other isn't there so that there's a relationship of some sort, that energy flow won't happen. There will just be nothing. And there would just be potential. And we are all bundles of potential. Every single one of us. The thing is that as soon as we look at the other person, because we have a certain expectation, the thing that I can't smell, we create the other thing that we then see. And typically it's created from our own internal experiences, because that's where the expectation comes from. So understanding, and I know that, I mean, even in the quantum realm, there's so many things that we don't understand yet. But understanding our impact on how we actually influence what we get back from the other person is extremely important. To give you an example of this, Dr. Jacalyn, I did a little experiment for myself. Nancy Klein wrote a couple of books around listening, but not only listening, creating thinking environments and how this works for us. So you literally sit and listen to the other person, and they do all the talking, or they don't do any talking because they're thinking through whatever it is that they need to think through. And it might be a physical thinking thing, or it might be an emotional thing, whatever it is. But the experiment that I did was thinking about the same thing, so same topic, but with different people. And it was fascinating to see how the topic I was thinking about and the thinking that I did changed with every observer that observed me. I found it so fascinating, and it's because of the energy that they bring, right? I don't know what their background is. They don't say a word. Literally, they're just looking at me while I'm talking, a little bit like you are doing now. And then I get that energy, and it influences how my thinking goes. So next time that you are in a room, remember, you influence the other person's energy as much as they influence yours. And it's the dance. Oh, we're going to be dancing.
That's such an important point, because when you walk into a room, people can sense your energy. You're vibrating at a high level or at a low level. And what I found is, in either case, people want to take that energy and throw it across the room so that it impacts everyone. And the question is, why? Why do you need to take your energy to influence someone else instead of just reveling in your own energy? And if your energy is a negative energy, look at, what can I do? What is the solution? And to me, this is one of the most important points, because we are the masters of our own domain. We can get assistance, support, help from you, for example, from me. I have coaches, you have coaches. It's basically, yes, you can reach out and get help. But the only person who is going to motivate you to do the work is you. And that brings me to my last point, which is, many times we know the information. We know this is not a good time to come up to our spouse and let them know about some bill, because they're already stressed out from work. They told you they have a major project that they're working on, and now you're coming up to talk about money. Not a good time. If you're looking to get an answer that you really like, maybe you want to go out on a shopping spree or something, not a good time. Know your audience and take a look at what is it that's motivating your behavior and how can you control it? Because to me, it is very upsetting to watch someone completely fall apart. If you have ever seen someone who wants attention, they want to make a point and no one's listening, and they just start getting more and more and more upset, they almost act like a child. It's painful to watch. So self-regulation, looking at, why is it that I'm feeling this way? What is it that I'm feeling? And what can I do to resolve it? As opposed to, who can fix me? As opposed to, what substance can I use to make me feel better in the moment? Or how can I take the money and go shopping or go gambling or go drinking or whatever it is so that I feel better? Because at some point, when the shopping is finished and the drinking is finished and the you're not going to feel any better. You're going to feel worse, because you did not identify the crux of the issue. And without doing that, you are just putting a Band-Aid on something. As our dear friend, Red O'Loughlin, who has 3 shows here, he always talks about the fact that if you don't get to the crux of what your illness is, if you're just treating symptoms and you never get to the root cause of it, you're never going to cure the situation. You're never going to have real answers, because you're just placating it. It's almost like when you have a child and you keep saying, okay, whatever you want. You know what? That's fine. Here, take some toys. Here, have some food. Here, have some sugar. Here, have some cereal. You're not addressing the situation, and it's going to mount higher and higher and higher. And we are way off our timing here. So our show continues. Mariska, what is it that you can help people with? And you are in Australia. We have a global audience. So can you work with people regardless of where they are?
Well, luckily, yes, as long as our time zones match enough so that we are both awake at the same time. Typically, I find that works really well for me and my clients to be awake at the same time. So other than that, any time zone would do. So yes, I do work online, so it makes it nice and easy for a global audience. As you guys can see, I have my little wings as ears today. And the people that I work with would typically be leaders. So if you are in a space where you are transitioning, especially as a leader, so whether you are transitioning into a new organization or your organization is transitioning itself, or you might be moving in or up in your career as a leader. So any of those transition type spaces, that's where I help out, because not only do we need to work out what to do within the transition itself, that is a bit of an identity shift. There's also different ways of being as we go through those different processes. So if you would like to work with me, or you are interested in finding out a little bit more, you can do so via my website. So my website is Journey, Journey, 2, Discover, DISCOVER.com. So that's the website. And my email is Mariska, MARISKA, @journey2, Discover.com. So that's the website and the email. And you can also find me, of course, on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is nice and easy. There you can literally look for my profile, which you would see on screen if you are watching this on a device that actually shows it to you. Otherwise, look for Mariska du Preez, search for that, and you can send me a direct message and we can start our conversation from there and work out how I might be able to assist you working through the transition that you are going through and bringing more of yourself into that space. I have found with a lot of the leaders that I work with, they don't need more leadership skills. You know what to do as a leader. That's not where your focus necessarily needs to be. It's more of the, how do I make this feel good for me? And have more alignment because it feels off. So if that's where you are at, please do contact me, and yeah, we can start our conversation from there.
Thank you so much, Mariska. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you enjoy the beginning of your day there in Australia as we're closing out here on the East Coast. And I look forward to seeing you again next week.
Me too.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
As we come to close out this episode, a couple of things that I want to share with you. I'm very passionate about people learning how to listen at what I have trademarked as an elevated level. Doesn't mean I'm standing above someone, I'm better than anyone. It means being completely present with 4 pillars. One is listening without interruption. And interruption can be very subtle, can be like the whole time the person's talking, you are showing in your body language that you want to interrupt them. The second is problem solving. The person sharing something with you and you immediately think, oh, I know what they need. So you interrupt and say, you know what? I know how you can fix that. Well, they didn't ask you to fix it. They wanted someone to listen, and you are no longer listening because the whole time you're thinking to yourself, I know what they need. And sometimes, especially with males, there's interruption. You know what? I don't need to hear the rest of this. What you need to do is this. No, that is not what I need to do. But what you realize is that that person's probably not the one to be sharing the information with. The third one is stage hogging. That's where you're sharing a story about something and the other person cuts in and says, oh, I had something similar happen to me. Like when I was sharing about medical results, and all of a sudden you're there on a stage and no one's listening. It's almost like that big hook came out and took you off the stage and the other person's there. Now they have the stage. So you never got to share your story because the other person stole the stage. And the last one, it's the toughest one of all. It's judgments. And if you think about all the things that are going on in this world, especially what we see posted on social media on a regular basis. There is so much hatred out there. It is gotten to the point where I am unfollowing people on a regular basis because I don't want to see or read or know anything about hatred. I don't want to hear about we need to take out this person and do this and do that. It's all anger filled with hatred, and you're no longer listening. That's why politics is so despised in so many ways, because we look at politicians and we say, well, if only they would listen to each other. Well, why don't you start with listening in your own home? Why don't you start with listening to yourself instead of needing outside validation? So I'm going to end with a selfish plug, which is I've now published, I think, 28 books. I'm not sure, but this is my Bible of listening. It's called Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. It's filled with case studies. It's a very easy read. You can pick it up at any fine bookstore. And my other book that I really want to mention is Holy But Harmful: The Silent Sin of Judgment, How Hidden Judgments Destroy Relationships and Damage Lives. And in this book, I have 100 statements that I personally have heard people say that are filled with judgment. And we don't think they are when we say them. It's just like when we're gossiping, we don't really think that we're hurting anyone, but we actually are hurting ourselves. So I'm just going to read a couple statements and you can take them as you will. They sold their house and now they're living in an apartment. How good could things be for them? Completely judgmental statement. You have no idea what their situation is. Maybe they don't want to take care of a big house anymore. Maybe they want to rent and take things from a different perspective. He never had his bar mitzvah, so technically he isn't Jewish. Why are you commenting on this? It's because we are always sticking our nose somewhere because we want to give our opinion. And then the last one, he eats beef, so he can't be a true Hindu. Really? This is what we do. We make these statements and we declare that this is the way that it is because we've decided it. No, we don't get to judge other people and say that we are a good person and say that we're actually listening, because the whole time in our mind, we're thinking this: oh, she's a Democrat. Oh, she's a Republican. Oh, she's pro-abortion. Oh, she's against abortion. Oh, she's for guns. Oh, she's not for guns. Oh, she's for the death penalty. She's not for the death. On and on and on and on. And while we are absolutely entitled to our own opinions, elevated listening is basically putting your opinions aside to actually be present for someone to share what they want to share. And if you've ever been in a situation where you felt invisible and you felt small and you felt unheard, and then someone came into your life, it could have been a stranger, and they actually were there for you while you shared a story and they didn't want anything in return, I bet you remember it right now. And on the opposite side, when we've been in conversations where somebody stole the stage, it could have been at a dinner party and so, blah, 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 blah. And we can't wait to get out of that dinner party because the other person has no awareness about social etiquette. Or, as we talked before, about the flow. The flow. One person speaks and one person listens, and then so on and so forth. So I will close out today thanking you for being here. I really do appreciate it. If you're new to our network, please do subscribe. I'm going to bring up our YouTube channels. We have two: USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. And we would love to have you join our community. And we have over 60 different TV shows. You can find them many different places, but I always send people to the YouTube channels. And finally, I want to thank each and every one of you who have been following us for the last 5 years. It means so much to not have any experience in the television business and then be surrounded by people like Mariska, who really have been here since the beginning and have helped create what we've created, which is world-class education, giving back, hope, and inspiration. Take good care of yourself. And remember, if you want someone to listen to you, you need to start with yourself. Be a good listener for someone else. Thank you and take care. Every great story begins with a vision. At USA Global TV and Radio, for years, we've been providing world-class education entertainment, inspiration, imagination, connections, and hope. Most people don't stay to watch the outro or the credits, but it's the people behind every success, behind every breakthrough, and behind every unforgettable story who matter. The TV show hosts, our guests, our sponsors, our publicists, our production team, our distribution team, our search engine optimization team, and so many more. You're the ones who make the difference. Every great story belongs to the people who bring it to life. Our future looks bright at USA Global TV and Radio, and that's because of you, our loyal fan base all around the world in more than 60 countries. Together, we're making a difference because you matter. USA Global TV and Radio, live streaming to over 60 countries. Voiceover, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Video production and direction, Paul Garcia. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV and Radio on YouTube.
What if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, what if many of the problems we associate with aging are not random? What if there are identifiable causes behind declining energy, chronic disease, and memory problems? We have been told that aging is simply something we must accept, that slowing down is normal, that growing older means growing weaker. But what if that's only part of the story? Why do some people remain active and engaged well into their later years? Why do others struggle with disease, fatigue, and declining health? What is happening beneath the surface? What processes drive aging? In Aging Sucks, researcher, educator, and author Red O'Loughlin explores what researchers have discovered about why we grow older. No medical degree required, no confusing jargon, just clear explanations of what researchers have discovered about the processes that influence aging. You cannot stop aging, but understanding its causes may help you make better decisions about your health, your future, and your quality of life. Because understanding comes before action. Action creates hope. Aging sucks. End the guesswork. There is hope.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.